So in line with, I can't believe they released this Vegas week, because of course they did. There's too much going on. We got our first look at what seems to be the direction they're going for the 2026 new formula. They apparently showed all the technical directors in Mexico some of these mock-ups that AMUS put up on their website, along with a description of the different changes to the regulation. If there's one thing I was reminded of when watching the Braun docuseries that we will talk about more on Thursday, is that F1 has been trying to do one thing with their regulations since the dawn of time, which is make less dirty air so cars can pass and be more competitive on track. And when your car has that much downforce, it's just going to be a hard task. So it was interesting listening to them talk about, as I'm about to say, guess what? The goal of the 2026 regulations is to make on-track following and passing easier, like it always is. But that's not the only goal. And caveat to all of this, like, these regulations are completely in flux and in motion. So this is just, at this point, some of the things that AMUS has been able to figure out. So for starters, we're getting shorter cars by at least 27 meters, slimmer cars by about 10 centimeters, and lighter cars by about 20 to 30 kilograms, with apparently the goal of making them even lighter than that. A big complaint of drivers about this regulation set of cars is how much bigger and bulkier and hard to maneuver and hard to see over them, and just like they can't fling them through corners the way they want to because they're not as light as they used to be. So it has been clear to me with these technical, like with this new direction that they're showing the technical directors, that that's at least a goal, that we should get smaller and lighter cars. And that makes me hyped.
Yeah, I feel like that conversation comes up so much, particularly around one of our favorite races, Monaco, when people are discussing like what cars used to look like in the history of F1 cars and how they've just become like so huge and big, and it's really just not fit for a circuit like Monaco. So I'm excited to see that this could be like a option, that we could be getting like a lighter, slimmer version of cars that could, make drivers want to like rip around turns and more than, or in a better way that they currently can do. But again, I'm trying to take this information with a grain of salt of how much this could change, and coming from a Google Translate position of it all.
Which I did verify with other people on social media. There was other people translating this. It wasn't just Google, but yes.
Right. Yeah, no, that's just name of our segment.
It's an important caveat, though, that I don't speak German.
I think it's also, to your point of every technical directive is like reducing dirty air, and it's just like, okay, hearing that, I just can't wait to be like, wow, I can't wait for teams to be reading the regulations and then finding like what's not said in the regulations and like doing that one thing that's eventually going to become a rule that they can't do anymore. Yep. And like, that's just, it's such a cyclical thing. Yeah. But that's what makes it exciting. And it's what is one of the best parts about F1 is that there are these regulations that you have these genius people reading through, finding out what they can and can't do with it.
Right. I have to say that I think some of the frustrating things for me watching the last 2 years of the regulations is that there hasn't been a lot of that. And we know it's happening, but since there's been no like pinning Red Bull back, we haven't figured out any of Red Bull's tricks yet. It's been frustrating to watch. I want to see how they're skirting the regulations, because that means they're doing a good job. The second big thing I pulled out, so we have smaller, lighter cars. The second thing I pulled out is that they're continuing their initiative to reduce air spirals around the wheels, which is a main cause of like dirty air. So that's why we have the wheel covers now, but they're also looking to put even more guards around the wheels to prevent it. So just an interesting thing that they're doubling down on. From this regulation set to the next one. So we're not going to lose the wheel covers in any way. If anything, we're going to get more elements to prevent that kind of spirally air, the bad stuff for following. And then the third thing, which is interesting, that I know people are probably going to run wild with, and I'm excited to see what all the smart people say about this, is that there's potential for more active aero elements beyond just the DRS flap. So DRS flaps is active aero because there's something actively changing within like when they're allowed to do it. So there's potential for more active aero elements. They're specifically looking at more in the rear wing and more in the front wing, but they're not limiting themselves to just those areas. So I don't think we're going to see like the active suspension per se of years past, but I like that they're not limiting the regulations or their way of thinking about the regulations to we have DRS and that is now the only way we can use active aero. It seems like they're willing to consider more options, which would be fun.
Offer more active aero. I love that idea. It's like a surprising. That was one of the pieces that I was like most surprised of when like hearing these like potential drafts of regulations, because it just seems so fun that they wouldn't want to do it. So excited to and hope that that stays true on here. I mean, we love DRS, so give us some more active aero options. Thank you for listening to this highlight from episode 44 of Gridwalk. Don't forget to like and subscribe for a ton more F1 videos. Also, you made it this far in this video. Just like go watch the rest of the podcast. This episode's really great and like some of our best. So click here to watch the full thing. Ready? Come with me. Click, 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 click.